Vextai stood before the great crystal podium of the Galactic Council. His forearms trembled as he placed his testimony pad on the surface. The massive hall stretched above him, filled with representatives from 1,000 worlds. All their eyes watched him. All their sensors recorded his words. He had asked for this chance to speak. Now he wished he had stayed silent. The chief counselor's voice echoed through the chamber. "You may begin your testimony." Scout Vextai of the Catherian fleet. Vextai's throat made a clicking sound. It was how his people showed fear. Honored Council, I speak today about the Terran Dominion conflict, about what I saw on the mining world called Kepler 442b, about the humans. He paused. About what we thought they were, and what they really are. The hall grew quiet. Everyone knew about the conflict. The Catherian fleet had gone to crush a small human colony. They had expected easy victory. Instead, they had suffered their first military defeat in 3,000 years. We first detected the human settlement 6 months before our attack, Vextai continued. Our long-range scouts reported a small mining operation, maybe 3,000 humans total. They had basic shelters, simple equipment, and old transport. Ships. Their leader was a human called Commander Jihoon. Vextai remembered that first surveillance report. The images had shown humans working in the mines. They looked so small compared to other species. Their skin had no natural armor. They had no claws or natural weapons. They moved slowly compared to most galactic races. The Catherian military analysts had laughed at the pictures. Fleet Commander Zekthin called them soft meat, Vextai said. He said we could conquer them with a single strike cruiser. But the Dominion wanted to test our new plasma weapons. They ordered us to use a full battle fleet. 12 ships, 20,000 warriors, all to crush 3,000 miners. The memory made his stomach hurt. They had thought it was overkill. They had thought it would be boring. A quick battle, maybe an hour of fighting, then victory. The humans would surrender or die. Either way, it would be over fast. We arrived in their system on the 15th day of the 3rd cycle, Vextai continued. Our fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of their solar system. We expected them to panic, to send surrender messages, to beg for mercy. He clicked, his throat again. They did none of these things. Instead, the humans had done something strange. They had sent a single message to the Catherian fleet. It was Commander Jihoon speaking directly to their fleet commander. Vextai remembered the human's face on the communication screen. Jihoon had looked tired, but calm. He had dark hair and serious eyes. He spoke in a steady voice. Commander Jihoon said only this, Vextai told the council. We know why you're here. We won't surrender. If you want our world, you'll have to take it. Then he closed the communication channel. The Catherian fleet had found this amusing. What could 3,000 miners do against a battle fleet? But something about the human's voice had bothered Vextai. There had been no fear in it. No anger either. Just a simple statement of fact. We began our approach to their planet, Vextai continued. Our sensors showed the humans moving around their settlement. They were not trying to escape. They were not hiding. They appeared to be preparing. This had confused the Catherian commanders. Preparing for what? They had no weapons that could hurt a battle fleet. They had no shields that could stop plasma, bombardment. Their ships were old cargo haulers, not warships. What could they possibly prepare? Lieutenant Minji, the human second in command, appeared on our screens during the approach, Vextai said. She was organizing the colonists into groups. Our translators picked up her words. She was not giving surrender instructions. She was giving fighting instructions. Vextai paused to drink from his water tube. The memory of that day still made his mouth dry. She told them where to find weapons, where to take cover, how to move without being seen. She spoke like someone who expected to fight and expected to win. The Catherian fleet had monitored these communications with growing surprise. These were miners, not soldiers. Where had they learned to fight? Why were they not afraid? Most species would have fled or surrendered by now. Fleet Commander Zekthin decided to give them one more chance, Vexatai said. He broadcast a surrender demand to the entire colony. He promised to spare their lives if they gave up immediately. He told them about our superior weapons and numbers. He explained that resistance was hopeless. The humans had listened to this message. Vexatai had watched their faces on the surveillance feeds. Some looked scared, some looked sad, but none of them looked ready to quit. Commander Jihun responded. Again, Vexatai told the council. This time his message was even shorter. He said, "We heard you the first time." The answer is still no. That was when Vexatai had first felt something was wrong. Not just unusual, but wrong. In 3 decades of military service, he had never seen a species refuse to surrender when facing impossible odds. Every intelligent race understood when they were beaten. Every race except humans, apparently. We began orbital bombardment at dawn on the planet's surface, Vextai continued. Standard procedure. Target their power stations, communication centers, and largest buildings. Show them our strength. Force them to realize they cannot win. The plasma beams had lit up the planet's sky like green lightning. The Catherian weapons had destroyed exactly what they aimed for. Power stations exploded. Communication towers fell. The largest buildings turned to ash and metal fragments. We expected surrender signals immediately, Vextai said. Instead, we received return fire. The council chamber stirred. Return fire? How could miners fight back against orbital bombardment? The humans had hidden weapons in the mines, Vextai explained. Old missile launchers, surface-to-space guns. Nothing that could seriously damage our ships, but enough to annoy us. More importantly, they sent us another message. Commander Jihun had appeared on the screens again. This time he was standing in what looked like a damaged command center. Smoke and dust filled the air behind him. His uniform was torn, and he had a cut on his forehead. He looked directly into the camera, Vextai said. He spoke very clearly. He said, "You want to play rough? Fine, let's play rough." That was the moment everything changed. That was when Vexatai realized they were not fighting ordinary prey. They were fighting something else, something that got stronger when hurt, not weaker. Fleet Commander Zekthin ordered the ground assault to begin, Vexatai said. He wanted to end this quickly before the humans could cause more trouble. He sent down our best shock troops, 5,000 Catherian warriors in full battle armor. Vextai stopped speaking. The memory of what happened next still gave him nightmares. The great hall waited in silence. That was our first mistake, he said quietly. We thought overwhelming force would end their resistance. Instead, we learned that humans do not surrender just because they should. We learned that humans fight harder when they are cornered, and we learned that humans are much more dangerous than they look. He took another drink of water. His next words would be harder to say. The real war was about to begin. The first Catherian dropships broke through the planet's atmosphere like falling meteors. Vextai watched from the command bridge as his people prepared to land. The battle computers showed perfect formation, perfect timing, perfect execution of standard invasion procedures. We expected the humans to hide in their deepest bunkers, Vextai told the council. Most species do this when facing superior forces. They wait and hope the attackers will leave them alone. But humans... He paused. Humans came out to meet us. The dropships had barely touched ground when the first human defenders appeared. They came from everywhere at once. From behind rocks, from inside damaged buildings, from trenches they had dug during the night. They did not wait for the Catherian warriors to organize. They attacked immediately. Sergeant Dongyun led the first human squad that Vextai's cameras tracked. He was a short man with broad shoulders and quick hands. His weapon was an old rifle that should have been useless against Catherian armor. But Dong Yun did not try to punch through the armor. Instead, he aimed for the joints, the vision ports, the weak spots that every armor design had to have. This confused our warriors, Vextai explained. Catherian battle doctrine relies on our superior equipment and training. We advance in formation. We use our armor to absorb enemy fire. We overwhelm the enemy with coordinated attacks. It works against every species we have fought. But the humans did not fight like any species the Catherians had encountered. They did not form lines. They did not stand and trade shots. They moved constantly, appearing and disappearing like smoke. When Catherian warriors advanced on their positions, the humans simply were not there anymore. Sergeant Dong Yun's squad held us off for 3 hours, Vextai said. 12 humans against 200 of our best troops. They should have been dead in minutes. Instead, they made us fight for every meter of ground. Vextai remembered watching the battle feeds in growing amazement. Every time the Catherian forces thought they had cornered the humans found another way out. They crawled through drainage pipes. They climbed walls that looked impossible to climb. They hid in places too small for Catherian bodies to fit. Then something happened that we had never seen before, Vextai continued. One of our plasma bolts hit Dongyun in the chest. His armor was completely destroyed. The medical scanners said he should be dead or unconscious. Instead, he got back up and kept fighting, the council chamber murmured with surprise. Most species would collapse from such injuries. Some might survive, but they would need medical treatment, not continue combat. Dongyun's squad saw him get hurt, Vextai said. We expected them to retreat or surrender. Instead, they became more dangerous. They started taking bigger risks, making more aggressive attacks. It was like seeing their leader injured made them angry instead of scared. This was the first time Vextai had realized something important about humans. They did not become weaker when hurt. They became stronger. Pain did not stop them. It motivated them. The battle continued for 6 more hours, Vextai told the council. Our forces slowly pushed the humans back toward their main settlement, but it cost us. We lost 47 warriors killing those 12 humans. The battle computers called this an acceptable ratio. But I could see something was wrong. What was wrong was the look in the surviving humans' eyes. As the Catherian forces advanced, the human defenders did not look defeated. They looked determined, more than determined. They looked like they were learning. Every time we used a new tactic, the humans adapted to it within minutes, Vextai said. When we used smoke grenades to block their vision, they started fighting. By sound. When we jammed their communications, they developed hand signals. When we attacked from unexpected angles, they started expecting the unexpected. Commander Ji-hoon had appeared on the communication channels throughout the day. He moved from position to position, always one step ahead of the Catherian advance. His uniform got dirtier and more torn as the hours passed, but his voice never changed. He stayed calm. He stayed in control. Ji-hoon coordinated the defense like he had been planning it for years, Vextai said. But we knew he was just a mining colony commander. He should not have known how to fight a proper military force. Yet his tactics were better than anything. In our training manuals, the truth was even more disturbing than that. Ji-hoon was not just defending, he was teaching. Every order he gave to his people included lessons about Catherian weaknesses. Every position he chose revealed something new about how to fight superior forces. By evening, we had taken most of their territory, Vextai continued. Our maps showed complete tactical success, but our casualties were mounting. More importantly, the humans were not breaking. They were getting better at killing us. The final assault on the main settlement had begun at sunset. Fleet Commander Zek Thin had ordered overwhelming force. Every available warrior would attack at once. The humans would be crushed by sheer numbers. We surrounded their last stronghold, Vextai said. 3,000 humans trapped in their mining complex. 15,000 Catherian warriors ready to finish them. Victory was certain. That was when Lieutenant Minji had contacted the Catherian fleet directly. She appeared on their screens covered in dust and blood, but her eyes were bright and alert. She looked directly at Fleet Commander Zekthin. She said something that still gives me nightmares, Vextai told the council. She said, "Thank you for teaching us how you fight. Now let us show you how we fight." The human counterattack began immediately, but it was not like anything the Catherians had prepared for. The humans did not try to break through the encirclement. They did not retreat deeper into their complex. Instead, they came straight up through the ground. They had been digging tunnels, Vexatai explained. Not away from us, but toward us. All day while we pushed them back, they had been digging underneath our positions. When they attacked, they appeared behind our lines, beside our lines, inside our formations. Sergeant Dongyan led the first tunnel assault. His chest wound was bandaged with torn cloth, but he moved like he was perfectly healthy. His squad emerged from a hole in the ground right next to a Catherian command post. They were so close that armor meant nothing. The fight became personal and brutal. Dongyan fought with a broken rifle and a mining tool. Vextai said, "He should have been easy to kill." Instead, he moved like our worst nightmare. Fast, unpredictable, and completely without fear. The battle turned into chaos. Catherian warriors found themselves fighting enemies who appeared from nowhere and disappeared, just as quickly. The humans used their knowledge of the mining complex to turn every corridor into a trap and every room into an ambush. "We realized something terrible that night," Vextai said. "We were not fighting miners pretending to be soldiers. We were fighting soldiers who happened to be miners. The difference was everything." Commander Ji-hoon's voice came over the communication. System one final time that day. He was not calling for surrender. He was not asking for mercy. He was giving orders to his people for the next day's fighting. He said, "Good work, everyone. Get some rest. Tomorrow we teach them some more lessons." Vextai's voice shook as he finished. That was when I first understood. The humans were not trying to survive until rescue came. They were not hoping we would get tired and leave. They were planning to win. The second day of fighting began before dawn. Vexatai had spent the night reviewing battle reports and casualty lists. The numbers made no sense. A small human colony was holding off a Catherian battle fleet. More disturbing, they were learning. From every encounter, Engineer Suyung changed everything, Vextai told the council. She was the human mining specialist. We thought she would be hiding with the other civilians. Instead, she was studying our equipment. During the night, the humans had recovered several pieces of damaged Catherian gear, weapons, armor fragments, communication devices, and scanner equipment. Most species would have tried to trade this, material for better surrender terms. The humans had given it all to Suyung. She took apart our plasma rifle in 4 hours, Vextai said. Equipment that took our engineers years to develop. She studied it like she was reading a simple instruction. Manual! Then she started building copies. Vextai remembered the first reports from the morning patrol. Human defenders were using modified Catherian weapons. The modifications were crude but effective. Suyung had figured out how to make the weapons more powerful by removing safety systems. Her weapons were dangerous to use, Vextai explained. They overheated quickly. Sometimes they exploded in the user's hands. But they could punch through our armor. And humans did not seem to care about the danger to themselves. Commander Ji-hoon had supported Suyung's work completely. He assigned his best people to help her. They brought her more captured equipment. They protected her workshop from Catherian attacks. They treated her knowledge like their most valuable weapon. By noon, the humans had 27 modified plasma weapons, Vextai said. Suyung trained other colonists to build more. She shared her knowledge freely. She wanted every human to understand our technology. But the weapons were not the most disturbing part. The real problem was what strategist Hyunwoo had discovered about Catherian tactics. He was a human who had worked in mining logistics. His job was organizing supply deliveries and work schedules. Now he was studying how the Catherian military fought. Hyunwoo found weaknesses in our battle formations that our own generals had never noticed, Vexatai told the council. Timing problems in our communications, blind spots in our defensive patterns, predictable habits in our movement schedules. Vexatai had read Hyunwoo's captured notes after the war. The humans' analysis was better than anything produced by Catherian military academies. He understood their doctrine better than they understood it themselves. Hyunwoo taught the other humans how to predict our actions, Vextai said. When we would attack, where we would attack, how many warriors we would send. He turned our own organization against us. The morning assault had proceeded according to standard Catherian doctrine. Fleet Commander Zek Thin had chosen the obvious attack routes. He had organized his forces in the traditional manner. He had followed the tactics that had worked for 3,000 years. The humans had been waiting in exactly the right places. They knew we were coming before we knew we were coming, Vextai said. Hyunwoo had predicted our battle plan better than our own computers. The humans were ready for everything we tried. The attack had turned into a disaster. Catherian forces found themselves walking into perfectly prepared ambushes. Their communication schedules had been predicted, so humans jammed their signals at the worst possible moments. Their movement patterns had been analyzed, so human defenders appeared wherever the Catherians were weakest. We lost more warriors in 3 hours than we had lost in 30 years, Vexatai told the council. Not because the humans were stronger than us, because they were smarter than us. Fleet Commander Zekthin had called for a tactical withdrawal. He needed time to analyze what was happening. His battle staff needed to develop new plans. The assault would resume with different approaches. We pulled back to establish a secure perimeter, Vextai said. Standard military procedure. Create a safe zone. Study the enemy. Plan the next attack. It should have worked. But the humans had not waited for the next Catherian attack. While the Catherian forces regrouped, the humans launched their own offensive. Small teams appeared everywhere at once. They hit supply lines, communication relays, and isolated outposts. Engineer Su Young led one of these teams. She had built portable versions of Catherian plasma weapons. Her squad used them to destroy 3 ammunition dumps and a field command post. When Catherian reinforcements arrived, the humans had already disappeared. Su Young left a message at each attack site. Vextai said, written in perfect Catherian script. It said, "Thank you for the lessons. Here are some improvements." The improvements were deadly. Su Young had found ways to make Catherian equipment work better than the original designs. Her weapons were more accurate. Her scanners had longer range. Her communication devices could not be jammed by Catherian countermeasures. She was sharing our own technology with us, Vextai said, but her versions were superior to ours. She understood our equipment better than the engineers who designed it. Strategist Hyunwoo had also left messages. His notes explained exactly how he had predicted each Catherian movement. He included suggestions for improving Catherian tactics. His advice was better than anything taught in their military schools. He was teaching us how to fight, Vextai told the council. But he was teaching us too late. He had already learned everything he needed to know to beat us. The day ended with the Catherian forces in complete confusion. Their own weapons were being used against them. Their own tactics were being turned into traps. Their supposedly superior military machine was being dismantled by a few thousand miners. Fleet Commander Zekthin called for orbital bombardment that night, Vextai said. He wanted to destroy the human settlement completely. Turn the entire area into molten glass. It was against our military code, but he was desperate. Commander Ji-hoon had anticipated this too. As the Catherian ships prepared to fire, the humans sent a final message of the day. Ji-hoon appeared on the communication screen one more time. He was standing in what looked like a damaged laboratory with Su Young and Hyunwoo beside him. Ji-hoon held up a device we had never seen before, Vextai said. It looked like a Catharian plasma weapon, but wrong, modified in ways that hurt to look at. He said, "If you fire on our civilians, we will fire back, and our weapons are better than yours now." The device in Ji-hoon's hands was pointed at the sky. The human mining complex had been converted into a weapon. Su-young had built a surface-to-space cannon using stolen Catharian technology and mining equipment. "Our sensors said the weapon should not work," Vextai told the council. "The power requirements were impossible. The targeting system was too crude. The barrel would melt after one shot. But human engineering did not follow Catharian rules. The weapon worked because Su-young believed it would work. She had solved problems that Catharian engineers said were impossible." "Fleet Commander Zekthin ordered the bombardment anyway," Vextai said. "He did not believe human miners could threaten a battle fleet. That was his final mistake. The human weapon fired once, just once, but once was enough. Their shot punched through our flagship's shields like they were made of air," Vextai said quietly. "It crippled our most powerful ship with technology. We had given them technology they had made better than we ever could." Ji-hoon's final message of the day was simple. "Tomorrow we start teaching you some harder lessons." The third day began with a Catharian mistake that would haunt Vextai forever. Fleet Commander Zekthin had grown tired of fighting soldiers. He decided to target the human civilians directly. His reasoning was simple: hit the weak ones, and the strong ones would surrender to protect them. "We bombed their residential areas," Vextai told the council. His voice was barely above a whisper. "Schools, hospitals, family housing. We thought this would break their will to fight. We thought wrong." The Catharian bombardment had been precise and deadly. Plasma beams struck civilian shelters with surgical accuracy. The explosions could be seen from orbit. When the smoke cleared, hundreds of human non-combatants were dead or wounded. "We waited for surrender signals," Vextai said. "Most species give up when their families are threatened. We expected desperate pleas for mercy. We expected offers to negotiate. Instead, the humans went silent. For 1 hour, no communications came from the colony. No movement appeared on the scanners. Even the human military positions stopped responding to Catharian attempts at contact." "Fleet. Commander Zekthin thought we had broken them," Vextai continued. "He prepared a speech accepting their surrender. He ordered the troop transports to stand by for occupation duty. He believed the war was over." Then Captain Junho's voice came over the communication channels. He was the commander of the human security forces. His voice was different from before. Colder, harder, empty of everything except purpose. "Junho said 5 words," Vextai told the council. "You just made this personal." What happened next violated every rule of civilized warfare that Vextai had ever learned. The humans did not just fight back. They transformed their entire society into a weapon pointed at the Catharian forces. "The sea. Civilian casualties became our worst nightmare," Vextai said. "The humans took their wounded to Medic Yunbi. She patched them up and sent them back to the fight. Not the soldiers. The civilians. Children who could barely hold weapons. Elderly people who should have been in shelters. Unbi had converted the medical center into something between a hospital and an armory. She treated wounds with one hand and handed out weapons with the other. She taught injured civilians how to fight while their bones were still healing. She told them that every Catharian death was payment for their families," Vextai said. "She kept score on a board in the medical center. Every patient who returned to combat got to add their kills to the total. The revenge was immediate and brutal. Human defenders began targeting individual Catharian warriors for prolonged torture instead of quick kills. They learned Catharian names and broadcast personal threats to specific soldiers. They turned war into a personal vendetta against every single invader. Captain Junho led the new offensive, Vextai told the council. But this was not military action anymore. This was extermination with a human face. Junho's tactics had evolved beyond anything in military textbooks. He organized the entire colony into hunting packs. Every human became a soldier. Every building became a fortress. Every street became a killing ground. They used the mining equipment as weapons, Vextai said. Industrial cutters became close combat. Tools. Ore haulers became armored vehicles. Chemical processors became bomb factories. The mining complex had been transformed overnight. What had once been a simple extraction operation was now a military-industrial powerhouse. The humans were manufacturing weapons and ammunition at a rate that seemed impossible. A human child brought down one of our dropships, Vextai said. The council chamber stirred at this statement. She was maybe 10 years old. She used a mining charge and a timing device made from toys. Our scanners never detected her approach. The child had been among the civilian casualties from the morning bombardment. She had lost her parents in the attack. Medic Yunbi had treated her burns and given her a weapon. The child had used it to kill 17 Catherian warriors before she was stopped. When we captured her, she was not afraid, Vextai said. She looked at our interrogation specialist and asked if he was the one who had killed her family. She was ready to fight him with her bare hands. This was when Vextai had truly understood what the Catherians were facing. They were not fighting an army or even a species. They were fighting an idea. The idea that some things were worth dying for and some enemies deserved to die. The afternoon assault was our attempt to end this quickly, Vextai continued. We sent every available warrior to storm their main complex. 5,000 troops against maybe 800 remaining humans. Captain Junho had been waiting for them. The humans had turned their mining complex into the most elaborate death trap that Vextai had ever seen. Every corridor was mined. Every room was pre-targeted by hidden weapons. Every step forward cost Catherian lives. Junho appeared on our communications during the assault, Vextai said. He was standing in a room full of human civilians, children, elderly, wounded, all of them armed, all of them ready to fight. Junho's message had been simple and terrifying. You wanted to fight our families? Fine. Meet our families. The human civilians fought like professional soldiers. The children used their small size to crawl through ventilation systems and attack from unexpected angles. The elderly used their knowledge of the complex to guide younger fighters to perfect ambush positions. The wounded fought with weapons strapped to their injured limbs. They turned their own suffering into ammunition, Vextai told the council. Every injury made them more dangerous. Every loss made them more determined. Pain was not their weakness. It was their strength. Medic Yunbi had established aid stations throughout the complex. But she was not just treating the wounded. She was creating more fighters. Her medical techniques kept humans conscious and mobile despite injuries that should have been incapacitating. She performed surgery with one hand and fired a weapon with the other, Vextai said. She saved human lives and took Catherian lives at the same time. She made medicine into warfare. The battle raged for 6 hours. The Catherian forces advanced, room by room, paying for every meter with blood. When they finally reached the central complex, they found Captain Junho waiting for them with his remaining forces. Junho was wounded in 7 places, Vextai said. He should have been dead. Instead, he was standing behind a barricade made from Catherian armor, holding a weapon built from our own technology. The final assault had cost the Catherians everything. Of the 5,000 warriors who entered the complex, fewer than 2,000 emerged. The humans had been outnumbered 6-1 and had still inflicted devastating casualties. That night, Fleet Commander Zekthin received a message from the human colony, Vextai told the council. It was from Captain Junho. He was still alive, still fighting, still defiant. Junho's message had contained no words, just an image. A picture of human civilians working in the ruins of their settlement, building new weapons, preparing new defenses, ready for the next day's fighting. The message was clear, Vextai said. The humans were not weakening. They were getting stronger. Every attack made them more dangerous. Every loss made them more determined. Vexatai paused, his forearms trembling. That was when we realized the truth. We were not fighting miners anymore. We were fighting something that could not be defeated, because it would not accept defeat. The fourth day brought horrors that still woke Vexatai from his sleep cycles. The humans had stopped fighting like any known species. They had become something new, something worse than any enemy the Catherians had ever faced. Demolitions expert. Tai-Hyung changed the nature of war itself, Vextai told the council. He was a mining engineer who specialized in controlled explosions. When the fighting started, he became something different, something terrible. Taehyung had spent the night studying captured Catherian equipment, not just weapons, but everything. Armor, communication devices, power cells, even medical supplies. He was looking for ways to make things explode that were never meant to explode. He turned our own equipment against us in ways we never imagined, Vextai said. He found out how to overload our power cells remotely, how to make our armor burn from the inside, how to turn our communication devices into bombs. The morning attack had proceeded normally until the Catherian warriors reached the outer perimeter of the human settlement. Then their own equipment began killing them. Power cells exploded without warning. Armor systems malfunctioned and trapped warriors inside burning metal shells. Communication devices released toxic gases. Taehyung had infected our supply chain, Vextai explained. Equipment that had been captured and recaptured carried his modifications. We were poisoning ourselves with our own weapons. But the equipment sabotage was just the beginning. Taehyung had also discovered something about Catherian psychology that no human should have known. He understood exactly what frightened them most. He started targeting our leaders specifically, Vextai said, not just killing them, hunting them, making examples of them. He wanted the rest of us to see what happened to Catherians who gave orders. The first target had been squadron leader Vorthok. He was a veteran commander with 40 years of military experience. He led from the front and inspired fierce loyalty in his troops. Taehyung killed him with an improvised explosive that triggered when Vorthok tried to help a wounded subordinate. The bomb was designed to activate on compassion, Vextai told the council. It only exploded when someone tried to help another person. Taehyung was weaponizing our better nature. More commanders died throughout the day. Each death was more elaborate and psychological than the last. Taehyung was not just eliminating leaders, he was teaching the surviving Catherians that kindness would be punished with death. By afternoon, our officers were afraid to give orders, Vextai said. Our sergeants were afraid to help their troops. Our medics were afraid to treat the wounded. Taehyung had turned our military virtues into fatal weaknesses. The real psychological warfare came from Sniper Yuna. She was a human who had worked as a mining surveyor before the war. Her job was measuring distances and identifying geological features. Now she was measuring the distance to Catherian hearts and identifying the perfect moment to break them. Yuna did not just kill us, Vextai said. She studied us first. She learned our names, our ranks, our families. She made killing personal. Yuna had somehow accessed Catherian military records. She knew which warriors had children waiting at home, which ones were supporting elderly parents, which ones were planning to retire after this mission. She used this knowledge to craft individual psychological attacks. She would contact warriors. Before she killed them, Vextai told the council, she would talk about their families, their hopes, their dreams. She made them think about everything they would lose. Then she would kill them while they were distracted by fear. The first victim had been Corporal Thektar. He was a young warrior on his second mission. Yuna contacted him through his helmet, communications, and started talking about his newborn daughter on the Catherian homeworld. She described the child in perfect detail. She knew the baby's name, her favorite toy, even her sleeping schedule. While Thektar was trying to understand how she knew these things, Yuna shot him, Vexatai said. The bullet was designed to wound, not kill immediately. She wanted him to die slowly, thinking about his daughter. Yuna's attacks became more sophisticated throughout the day. She targeted warriors in specific orders designed to maximize psychological damage to the survivors. She killed the popular ones first, then the competent ones, then the ones who tried to maintain morale. She left messages with each body, Vextai said. Personal notes to the deceased's friends and family. She wrote them in perfect Cytherian script. She knew more about our people than we knew about ourselves. The messages were not threats or propaganda. They were obituaries. Yuna wrote detailed descriptions of each warrior's life, accomplishments, and relationships. She made every death feel like a personal loss to everyone who found the body. She turned our own compassion into a weapon, Vextai told the council. Every warrior who read her messages became less effective in combat. They started thinking about their own mortality, their own families, their own reasons for living. The combination of Tai Hyung's explosive traps and Yuna's psychological warfare created a new kind of battlefield. Cytherian forces became paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. They could not trust their equipment, their communications, or even their own emotions. By evening, our military discipline was collapsing, Vextai said. Warriors refused direct orders. Officers abandoned their posts. Entire squads went into hiding rather than face another day of fighting humans. Fleet Commander Zekthin had tried to restore order through traditional Cytherian methods. Public executions of cowards, harsh punishments for insubordination, threats against the families of deserters. None of it worked. The humans had broken. Something inside us, Vextai said. They had shown us that courage and honor could be turned into weaknesses. They had taught us that caring about others would get us killed. The day's final horror came when Taehyung and Yuna coordinated their attacks. They had identified the Cytherian field hospital and decided to make a statement about the cost of invading human space. They did not attack the hospital directly, Vextai told the council. That would have been a war crime, and humans still pretended to follow some rules. Instead, they attacked everyone who tried to reach the hospital. Medical personnel became priority targets. Wounded warriors were allowed to call for help, but anyone who responded to their calls was killed. The humans created a zone where compassion meant death. They turned our medical facility into a trap, Vextai said. The wounded called for help. The medics tried to respond. Yuna killed the medics. Taehyung destroyed their vehicles. The wounded died alone, watching their rescuers die trying to save them. The message was clear. Humans would not just defeat the Cytherian military. They would destroy everything good and noble about Cytherian society. They would turn virtues into liabilities and strengths into weaknesses. That night, many of our warriors broke completely, Vextai said. They stopped trying to fight. They just waited to die. The humans had not just won battles. They had won our souls. Fleet Commander Zekthin's final transmission of the day was a desperate plea to Cytherian command. He begged for permission to withdraw. He warned that the human colony was destroying his forces from within. The response from command was immediate, Vextai told the council. No retreat, no surrender. Complete the mission or face court-martial. Zekthin had read the message aloud to his remaining officers. Then he had looked at them with empty eyes and said, The humans have already given us our court-martial. Tomorrow they will give us our sentence. The fifth day began with the Cytherian fleet attempting something that had never been done in their military history, a complete withdrawal from an active combat zone. Fleet Commander Zekthin had declared the mission impossible and ordered all forces to return to their ships for immediate departure. We thought the humans would be happy to see us leave, Vextai told the council. Most species celebrate when superior forces retreat. They accept victory and let the defeated enemy escape, with some dignity. But humans, he paused. Humans do not think like other species. Commander Jihoon's response to the withdrawal announcement had been swift and terrifying. He appeared on the communication channels as the first Cytherian dropships began loading. Wounded warriors for evacuation. Jihoon said something that still haunts me, Vextai said. He said, "You came here to destroy us. You killed our families. You burned our homes. Did you really think we would let you just leave?" The human counterattack began before the first Catherian transport had cleared the atmosphere. Engineer Wu Jin led a team of humans who had spent the night modifying captured Catherian shuttles for combat. They had turned simple transport vehicles into flying weapons. Wu Jin was a maintenance specialist, Vextai explained. He repaired mining equipment and transport systems. When the war started, he began repairing our captured ships, but his repairs were improvements. The modified human ships appeared in the planet's upper atmosphere like a swarm of metallic insects. They moved in patterns that violated everything the Catherians knew about proper flight formation. They attacked from impossible angles and disappeared before return fire could find them. Wu Jin had stripped everything unnecessary from the ships, Vextai said. Life support, comfort systems, safety protocols. He turned them into pure weapons that happened to carry human pilots. Pilot Nari flew the lead ship in the human squadron. She had been a cargo hauler operator before the war. Her experience was moving heavy equipment through narrow spaces. Now she was moving weapons through Catherian defensive formations. Nari flew like she was insane, Vextai told the council. She used maneuvers that should have killed her crew from acceleration stress. She made approach runs that should have been impossible. She treated physics like suggestions rather than laws. The first Catherian transport to fall was caught completely, by surprise. It was loaded with wounded warriors and medical personnel. The crew was focused on getting their patients to safety. They never expected an attack during evacuation. Nari's ship appeared directly above the transport, Vextai said. She fired at point-blank range. The transport exploded instantly. Everyone aboard died in seconds. But the destruction was not random. The humans were targeting specific ships in a specific order. They hit medical transports first, then command vessels, then ships carrying officers and specialists. They were eliminating the most valuable Catherian personnel. This was not battlefield tactics, Vextai said. This was extermination with a plan. The humans wanted to ensure that even if some Catherians escaped, the best and brightest would not be among them. Wu Jin had equipped each human ship with weapons that should not have existed. He had combined Catherian energy weapons with human mining charges to create hybrid systems that were more powerful than either technology alone. His weapons could punch through our military-grade shields, Vextai told the council. Equipment that took our engineers decades to develop. Wu Jin had surpassed it in 5 days using mining tools and salvaged parts. The space battle became a nightmare of impossible physics and brutal efficiency. The human ships moved like they were controlled by pilots who did not care about their own survival. They made ramming attacks against larger vessels. They used their ships as weapons instead of just weapon platforms. Nari led 3 direct collision attacks, Vextai said. She would fly her ship directly at a Catherian vessel at full speed. At the last possible moment, her crew would teleport to safety using our own emergency transport systems. The unmanned ship would continue on course and detonate on impact. This tactic violated every rule of civilized space combat. Ships were expensive and difficult to replace. Pilots were trained professionals who represented years of investment. No rational military would sacrifice either one for tactical advantage. But humans were not fighting a rational war, Vextai said. They were fighting an emotional war. Every ship they destroyed was revenge for their dead families. Every Catherian. Death was payment for human suffering. The battle spread throughout the solar system as Catherian forces tried to escape to safe jump distance, but the humans pursued them relentlessly. Modified ships appeared at every evacuation point. Human. Voices taunted the fleeing Catherians over the communication channels. Pilot Nari contacted our fleet directly, Vextai said. She was flying a ship that was on fire and missing half its hull. She should have been focused on survival. Instead, she was focused on killing more of us. Nari's message had been personal and specific. She named individual Catherian officers and described exactly how she planned to kill them. She knew their ranks, their service records, and their family situations. She made each threat a personal promise. She said she would follow us all the way back to Catherian space if necessary, Vexatai told the council. She said the war would not end until every warrior involved in the attack was dead. Engineer Wu Jin supported Nari's threats with technical demonstrations. He showed the Catherian fleet how human-modified ships could outrun, outfight, and outlast anything in the Catherian arsenal. He had turned their own technology against them more effectively than they had ever used it themselves. Wu Jin broadcast detailed specifications of his weapon systems, Vextai said. He wanted us to understand exactly how outmatched we were. He wanted us to know that running away would not save us. The final evacuation attempts became increasingly desperate. Fleet Commander Zekthin ordered his ships to scatter in all directions. He hoped that at least some vessels would escape to warn Catherian command about the human threat. The humans hunted us across 3 star systems, Vextai said. They followed individual ships for days. They appeared at our emergency supply caches. They intercepted our distress calls and arrived before rescue ships could respond. Pilot Nari personally destroyed 7 Catherian vessels during the pursuit. Each attack was more elaborate and personal than the last. She left messages for the crews before she killed them. She made them understand exactly why they were going to die. She told them about every human civilian who had been killed in the bombing, Vextai said. She gave names, ages, occupations. She made each Catherian death represent multiple human deaths. The pursuit finally ended when the surviving Catherian ships reached the edge of Dominion space. The humans stopped following only when they encountered other military forces that might complicate their mission. Of the 12 ships that had come to crush a mining colony, only 4 escaped, Vextai told the council. We had lost 2/3 of our fleet to an enemy we had expected to defeat in hours. Fleet Commander Zekthin's final report to Catherian Command had been a single sentence. The humans are not what we thought they were. But even that was not the end, Vextai said. The humans sent us a farewell message as we limped home. It was from Commander Ji-hoon, speaking on behalf of the entire human colony. Ji-hoon's message had been calm and professional. He thanked the Catherians for the educational experience. He promised to share the lessons learned with other human colonies. He suggested that future Catherian expeditions might want to avoid human space entirely. Then he said something that still gives me nightmares, Vextai told the council. He said, "We hope this was instructive. Please feel free to come back anytime you want another lesson." Vextai looked at the assembled representatives. That was when I realized the humans had not just defeated us. They had been playing with us, testing themselves against what they thought was a serious threat, and we had failed even to entertain them properly. Vextai's voice cracked as he approached the most painful part of his testimony. The surviving Catherian ships had limped back to Dominion space, carrying wounded warriors and shattered confidence. But the real horror was still waiting to be discovered. 3 days after our escape from human space, Intelligence Officer Minho contacted our fleet, Vextai told the council. He was a human who worked for Dominion Intelligence. We thought he was calling to debrief us about the battle. We were wrong. Minho appeared on the communication screens of all 4 surviving Catherian ships simultaneously. He looked tired but satisfied. His uniform was clean and proper, completely unlike the battle-worn colonists they had been fighting. Minho said something that destroyed everything we thought we knew, Vextai continued. He said, "Thank you for participating in our field test. The data you provided will be invaluable for future human military development." The words made no sense at first. Field test? Data collection? The Catherians had been fighting for their lives against desperate human colonists. What kind of test required real combat with real casualties? Minho explained everything, Vextai said. The attack on the human colony had not been a Catherian initiative. It had been requested by the Galactic Dominion. They wanted to see how humans would perform under extreme combat stress. The revelation hit the surviving Catherian officers like a physical blow. Their entire military operation had been planned by the enemy. The humans had known they were coming. They had known exactly how many ships to expect and what weapons the Catherians would bring. The Dominion had told the humans to prepare a realistic, defensive scenario, Vextai told the Council. They wanted to evaluate human military potential without alerting other species to their capabilities. Minho had provided the humans with complete intelligence about Catherian military doctrine. He had given them technical specifications for all Catherian equipment. He had even provided psychological profiles of the officers who would lead the attack. The humans had not been fighting blindly, Vextai said. They had been following a carefully prepared script designed to test their abilities under controlled conditions. The mining colony itself had been selected specifically for the test. The human colonists were not random miners. They were military, veterans, engineers, and specialists who had volunteered to participate in a combat evaluation program. Commander Ji-hoon was a retired human general, Vexatai said. Lieutenant Minji was a former Special Forces operative. Engineer Soo-young was a weapons designer. Strategist Hyun-woo was a military academy instructor. Even the civilian casualties had been part of the plan. The Dominion had wanted to see how humans would respond to attacks on non-combatants. The bombing that had triggered the humans' brutal escalation had been an expected part of the test scenario. Every human death had been calculated in advance, Vextai told the Council. The Dominion knew that some colonists would die. They considered it an acceptable cost for the intelligence they would gain. Minho's briefing continued with detailed analysis of Catherian performance during the battle. He critiqued their tactics, their equipment, and their psychological responses. His evaluation was thorough and professional. He gave our military leaders grades like they were students in a class, Vextai said. Fleet Commander Zek Thin received a failing score for inability to adapt to unconventional enemy tactics. But the most devastating revelation was still coming. Minho explained that the human colony had been fighting under severe restrictions designed to make the test more challenging for them. The humans had been limited to captured equipment and improvised weapons, Vextai said. They were not allowed to use their actual military hardware. The weapons that had defeated us so easily were the weakest things in their arsenal. Soo-young's improvised plasma weapons were inferior copies of human military equipment. Wu Jin's modified ships were crude, versions of actual human warships. Even Yuna's psychological warfare was a simplified version of standard human combat doctrine. Minho showed us footage of real human weapons, Vextai said. Equipment that made our most advanced systems look like toys. Ships that could destroy our entire fleet without taking damage. Soldiers who could have ended our invasion in minutes instead of days. The humans had been playing with them. Every desperate battle, every clever tactic, every moment of Catherian terror had been a human learning exercise conducted with obsolete equipment and volunteer civilians. The test had not been about whether humans could defeat us, Vextai told the Council. It had been about how efficiently they could do it with one hand tied behind their backs. Minho's final revelation was the most disturbing of all. He explained that the battle data would be used to prepare humanity for larger conflicts in the future. The Dominion was planning to use humans as their primary military force. He said that humans had proven they could defeat any known species, using only improvised weapons and basic tactics, Vextai said. The Dominion was confident that properly equipped human forces could conquer the entire galaxy. The recording ended with Minho thanking the surviving Catherians for their service to Dominion intelligence. He promised that their sacrifice would be remembered when humans began their expansion into other species' territories. We realized that we had not just lost a battle, Vextai said. We had participated in our own species' death sentence. The humans now knew exactly how to defeat us, and they had the backing of the Galactic Dominion to do it. Fleet Commander Zekathan had tried to contact Catherian Command with warnings about the human threat, but his messages were intercepted by Dominion forces and blocked. The Catherian government never received his reports about what had happened. "We were ordered to remain silent about the battle," Vextai told the Council. "The Dominion classified our entire mission as a training exercise. Our casualties were listed as equipment malfunctions and pilot errors." The surviving Catherian warriors were reassigned to remote outposts where they could not spread word about human capabilities. Their reports were sealed, their warnings were ignored, their trauma was dismissed as combat stress. The Dominion wanted to keep human military effectiveness secret until they were ready to use it, Vextai said. They planned to unleash human forces on their enemies without warning. But the conspiracy had one weakness. Intelligence Officer Minho had underestimated the psychological impact of the battle on the human participants. The colonists had fought so hard and suffered so much that some of them began questioning their role in the larger plan. Commander Jihoon discovered the truth about the test, Vextai said. He found out that the civilian casualties had been expected and accepted by the Dominion. He learned that his people had been used as experimental subjects. Jihoon's response had been swift and decisive. He shared the information with every human in the colony. He broadcast the truth about the battle to human settlements throughout the galaxy. He made sure that humanity would know exactly what the Dominion had done to them. The humans were not angry about being tested, Vextai told the Council. They were angry about being lied to. They were furious about being used, and they decided to do something about it. The final message from the human colony had not been directed at the Catherian survivors. It had been broadcast to every species in the galaxy. Commander Jihoon spoke directly to the Galactic Council. Jihoon said that humans would no longer serve the Dominion's interests, Vextai said. He declared that humanity was withdrawing from all Dominion agreements. He announced that humans would defend themselves against any future attacks, regardless of who authorized them. Then Jihoon had looked directly at the camera and delivered his final warning. "We have learned what we needed to know. Now we will teach the galaxy what we have learned. The age of human weakness is over." Vextai stood silent for a long moment, gathering the strength to finish his testimony. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council waited. Representatives from 1,000 worlds watched him struggle with memories that still caused him physical pain. "That was 2 years ago," Vextai said finally. 2 years since we learned what humans really are. 2 years since they stopped pretending to be weak. The aftermath of the battle had unfolded exactly as Commander Jihoon had promised. Humanity had withdrawn from all Dominion agreements. Human colonies had declared independence. Human ships had begun appearing in neutral space, offering protection to species that felt threatened by larger powers. Commander Seojun now leads the human military forces, Vextai told the Council. He was Jihoon's second-in-command during the battle. He learned everything about fighting superior enemies. Now he teaches those lessons to other humans. Seojun had transformed human military doctrine based on the lessons learned from the Catherian defeat. He had created training programs that turned ordinary humans into the kind of fighters that had terrified an entire battle fleet. "Every human colony now has defenders like the ones we fought," Vextai said. "Engineers like Suyong who can turn anything into a weapon. Strategists like Hyunwoo who can predict enemy actions. Pilots like Nari who treat death as just another tactical option." But the humans had not stopped with defensive preparations. Admiral Hyejin had organized human forces into offensive fleets that patrolled the galaxy looking for threats to human settlements. Her ships appeared wherever other species were considering aggressive action. "Admiral Hyejin was a logistics officer during our battle," Vextai said. "She supplied the human defenders with everything they needed to kill us. Now she supplies human fleets with everything they need to kill anyone who threatens human space." Tao. Human expansion had been swift and methodical. They did not conquer other species' territories. Instead, they established bases in unclaimed systems and offered military services to species that felt threatened. Their protection came at a price, but it was a price many were willing to pay. The humans learned something important from our attack, Vextai told the council. They learned that they could not trust other species to leave them alone, so they decided to make sure no one would be able to threaten them again. Human technology had advanced at an impossible rate. Engineers, like Soyoung, had taken the lessons learned from reverse engineering Catharian equipment and applied them to human designs. Their weapons were now generations ahead of anything else in the galaxy. They do not just build better versions of existing technology, Vextai said. They create completely new types of weapons, things that violate the rules we thought governed. Warfare. The psychological warfare techniques that Yuna had pioneered were now standard human doctrine. Every human military unit included specialists trained in species-specific intimidation methods. They knew exactly how to break the will of any enemy they might face. They study us, Vextai said. All of us. Every species in the galaxy. They know our fears, our weaknesses, our pressure points. They prepare for war against everyone, even their allies. The human message to the galaxy had been clear and consistent. They did not want to conquer other species. They did not want to rule the galaxy. They simply wanted to be left alone. But they had made it clear that anyone who threatened human space would face consequences that no species could survive. 3 different powers have tested human resolve since our battle, Vextai told the council. The Zeldan Empire attacked a human mining station. The Corvani Syndicate tried to blockade human trade routes. The Thexus Confederation demanded tribute from human colonies. All 3 conflicts had ended the same way. Swift, brutal human victories that left the aggressors broken and terrified. The humans had not just defeated these enemies. They had made examples of them. The Zeldan Empire lost half its fleet in 4 hours, Vextai said. The Corvani Syndicate surrendered after watching their command ship get destroyed by a single human fighter. The Thexus Confederation paid reparations and publicly apologized. Each victory had demonstrated new aspects of human military capability. Weapons that seemed impossible, tactics that violated common sense, strategies that turned enemy strengths into fatal weaknesses. The humans fight like they did during our battle, Vextai said. But now they have proper equipment. Now they have training. Now they have experience. The most disturbing development was how other species had begun responding to the human presence. Some had allied themselves with humanity, seeking protection from traditional enemies. Others had begun copying human military techniques, trying to develop their own versions of human effectiveness. The entire galaxy is changing because of what we unleashed, Vextai told the council. Species that have been peaceful for centuries are militarizing. Traditional alliances are breaking down. Everyone is preparing for a war that humans might not even start. But Vextai knew the truth that many others refused to accept. The war had already started. It had started the moment the first Catharian ship entered human space. Everything since then had been just preparation for what was coming. The humans are not finished learning, he said. Every battle teaches them something new. Every victory makes them stronger. Every enemy shows them new ways to fight. Commander Ji-hun still led the original human colony. It had been rebuilt into something between a military academy and a weapons testing facility. Human officers from across the galaxy came there to study the techniques that had defeated the Catharians. Ji-hun gives lectures now, Vextai said. He teaches other humans how to fight impossible odds and win. He shares the lessons he learned from killing us. The most terrifying part was that the humans were still improving. The techniques that had seemed so advanced during the original battle were now considered basic training exercises. New human military units were learning tactics that would have ended the Catharian invasion in hours instead of days. They have not forgotten us, Vextai told the council. They still study recordings of our battle. They use our defeat as an example of what happens to species that underestimate human capabilities. Vextai looked around the great hall one final time. Representatives from every major power were present. All of them had heard his testimony. All of them now understood what they were facing. "I came here to warn you," he said, "to tell you what humans really are, to explain why you should be afraid." His voice grew stronger as he approached his conclusion. Humans are not the weak species we thought they were. They are not the peaceful neighbors they pretended to be. They are predators who spent thousands of years learning to hunt creatures bigger and stronger than themselves. The hall remained completely silent as Vextai delivered his final warning. They evolved on a world that tried to kill them every single day. They survived by becoming more dangerous than anything that threatened them. Now they are loose in the galaxy, and they have learned that other species can be just as dangerous as their home world. Vextai stepped back from the podium. His testimony was complete. He had told the galaxy everything he knew about humanity's true nature. "The humans are still out there," he said quietly. "They are still learning. They are still growing stronger, and they remember every species that has ever threatened them." He looked directly at the chief counselor. "The question is not whether humans will reshape the galaxy. The question is whether the rest of us will survive the process." Vextai clicked his throat one final time. The sound echoed through the silent hall like a death rattle. "That is my testimony. I pray to whatever gods you worship that you take it seriously. Because the humans certainly will."